Captain Vexka had been trading with humans for 30 years. She knew their voices better than her own children's laughter. The humans always talked too much, laughed too loud, and asked too many questions about her ship's cargo. They made her headache with their endless chatter, but they paid well and always kept their promises. Today felt different. The Wind Cutter dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, just like every 3 months for the past decade. Vexka expected the usual chaos. Human traffic control should have been screaming at her about flight paths and docking permits. Her communication board should have been lighting up with messages from Earth's orbital stations. Instead, silence filled her ship's bridge. "Strange," muttered Crix, her co-pilot. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion as he checked the communication systems. Everything works fine, but no one talks back. Vexka felt cold fear creep up her spine. In 30 years of trading, she had never seen human space this quiet. Even during their wars, humans never stopped talking on the radio waves. They moved deeper into the system. Earth's massive orbital stations hung dark against the star field. No lights blinked on their hulls. No ships moved between them. The stations looked like dead metal bones floating in space. "Try Luna Colony," Vexka ordered. Crix sent out call after call to the human moon base. Nothing came back except the echo of their own transmissions bouncing off empty metal. Mars looked just as dead. The great terraforming platforms that had been turning the red planet green for 50 years sat silent. No work ships buzzed around them. No human voices filled the communication channels with progress reports and complaints about the weather. The asteroid belt told the same story. Huge mining operations that once crawled with human workers drifted empty through space. The mining ships sat in perfect formation, as if someone had parked them neatly before walking away forever. "Captain," Crix's voice shook, "I'm scanning the Kuiper Belt stations. Nothing, no life signs anywhere." Vexka felt sick. 12 billion humans lived in this system. They built cities on every planet and moon. They filled space with their noise and dreams and endless projects. Where had they all gone? Her scanner detected other ships approaching. The Construct Collective's geometric vessels appeared first, their metal surfaces reflecting starlight like mirrors. Behind them came the glowing ships of the Luminar Consciousness, looking like captured stars. The massive warships of the Kraxan Empire followed, their weapon ports closed but ready. Every major power in the galaxy was coming to see the same impossible thing. Captain Zephyr 9 of the construct ship Logic Gate appeared on Vexka's communication screen. His robot face showed no emotion, but his voice carried something that might have been confusion. "Zephyrian vessel, have you made contact with the human authorities?" "No contact anywhere," Vexka replied. "Your people?" "Negative. We detect no human life signs in this system. No distress signals. No signs of battle. The humans have simply stopped existing." A new voice joined their conversation. High Admiral Thark Rex of the Kraxan Empire spoke in his people's harsh language, automatically translated by the ship's computer. "Warriors of the Void, my sensors show the same readings. But this makes no sense. 12 billion beings do not simply vanish. Where are the bodies? Where are the ships fleeing in terror? Where is the evidence of whatever destroyed them?" The Luminar representative joined their growing conference call. When the beings of pure energy spoke, their words felt like music inside everyone's minds. "We sense no death echoes in this place. When large numbers die, their final thoughts leave marks in space itself. Here, we find only absence, as if the humans were never here, yet all their things remain." Vexka guided her ship toward Earth's main orbital station. The docking bay doors opened automatically when she approached. Inside, human cargo loaders sat powered down but ready. Shipping containers filled with trade goods waited in neat rows. Everything looked normal except for the complete lack of people. She put on her environment suit and walked through the station's corridors. The artificial gravity worked fine. The air systems hummed quietly. In the control center, coffee cups sat on desks, with brown stains showing where the liquid had dried up. Computer screens still glowed, showing shipping schedules and star charts. In the living quarters, she found children's toys scattered on the floor. Family pictures smiled down from the walls. Beds looked like people had just gotten up to start their day. But dust was starting to settle on everything. "How long?" she asked herself out loud. Her suit's computer analyzed the dust patterns and checked the station's automatic logs. The last human activity had been recorded exactly 7 days ago, then nothing, as if everyone had simply stopped existing at the same moment. Back on her ship, Vex-Ka listened to the other captains report similar findings. Every human settlement told the same story. People had been living normal lives, then vanished all at once. No panic, no preparation, no goodbye messages. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. For the first time in recorded history, an entire species had disappeared from the universe. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. Vex-Ka attended as a witness. She sat in the Zephyrian section and listened to speakers from across the galaxy try to explain the impossible. "Perhaps they developed new technology," suggested a construct representative. "Some form of mass teleportation." "To where?" asked a Luminar speaker. "We have searched every human colony across the galaxy, all empty, all showing the same pattern of sudden abandonment." "Maybe they all died from a disease," offered a Kraxan general. "Some plague that destroyed the bodies completely." "Impossible," replied the medical experts. "No disease works that fast across such distances, and we found no biological traces of mass death." The debates went on for hours. Scientists presented theories. Military leaders suggested enemy attacks. Philosophers wondered if the humans had discovered some form of group suicide. But none of the explanations made sense. The evidence showed that 12 billion humans had simply stopped existing at exactly the same cosmic moment across hundreds of worlds and thousands of space stations. As the meeting ended, Vex-Ka felt a deep sadness she couldn't explain. The humans had been loud and annoying, but they had also been alive in a way that few other species matched. They argued about everything, but they also helped anyone who asked. They fought wars, but they also wrote beautiful music. They complained constantly, but they never gave up on their impossible dreams. Now the galaxy felt quieter, emptier, as if something important had been lost forever. Walking back to her ship, Vex-Ka made a decision. She would keep flying the trade routes to human space. Someone needed to watch over their empty worlds. Someone needed to remember that 12 billion beings had lived and laughed and dreamed in these places, even if no one could explain where they had gone. 3 weeks after the discovery, the largest investigation fleet in galactic history gathered around Earth. Ships from every major civilization floated in formation, their sensors pointed at the silent blue world below. Dr. Keth 9 of the Construct Collective led the scientific teams. His metal body never needed rest, which made him perfect for the endless work ahead. He had studied extinct civilizations for over 200 years, but this case made no sense to his logical mind. "Begin systematic analysis," he broadcast to the fleet. "Every human facility will be examined. Every piece of data will be processed. We will find the answer." The Luminar sent their best mind readers to search for psychic traces. The Kraxan military experts looked for signs of weapons or warfare. Zephyrian trade specialists checked financial records and cargo manifests. Even the mysterious Void Walkers emerged from their hidden dimension to help study the quantum signatures left behind. Captain Vex-Ka volunteered her ship as a mobile base. She knew human space better than most aliens, having traded here for decades. Her practical knowledge proved valuable when the scientists needed to understand human daily routines. The first major discovery came from Earth's data networks. Human computers had recorded everything right up until the moment of disappearance. The construct analysts found something that chilled their circuits. "Examine these timestamps," Keth-9 announced during the daily briefing. "Every human facility across the galaxy shows the exact same moment of cessation, accounting for light speed delays. They all stopped at the identical instant in cosmic time." A Luminar representative glowed brighter with confusion. "This violates physical law. Information cannot travel faster than light. How could events be synchronized across such vast distances?" "Unless," suggested a Kraxan scientist, "they used quantum entanglement on an impossible scale." The evidence supported this theory. Human quantum communication networks showed massive energy spikes in the days before the disappearance. But the readings made no sense. Quantum entanglement was supposed to carry information, not physical matter. Vexka found herself working closely with a young construct named Unit 47. Unlike the older robots, this one seemed curious about human emotions and behaviors. Together, they explored a human family apartment on Luna Colony. "Look at this!" Vexka pointed to a child's drawing stuck to a refrigerator. It showed stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. "The humans always drew pictures of happiness, even when they were scared." Unit 47 scanned the drawing with multiple sensors. "Why do you think they documented their emotions in visual form?" "Because they wanted to remember good times, and they wanted others to remember them." Vexka felt sad, looking at the innocent drawing. This child drew a family together. But where did that family go? Their investigation of the apartment revealed something strange. The humans had been living completely normal lives right until the end. Calendars showed planned activities for weeks ahead. School assignments were half finished. Someone had been in the middle of baking cookies when they vanished. But in the master bedroom, Unit 47 sensors detected something unusual. Captain Vexka observed this datapad. The robot held up a small human device. It contains research notes about quantum consciousness theory. Why would a civilian family possess such advanced scientific material? The datapad belonged to the apartment's mother, a woman named Sarah Chen who worked as a school teacher. But her personal files contained complex equations about the nature of consciousness and reality. She had been corresponding with scientists across human space about something called the pattern. Similar discoveries emerged from other human homes. Ordinary people, farmers, artists, shopkeepers, children, all had been researching the same mysterious topic in their spare time. As if the entire human species had become obsessed with solving a cosmic puzzle. The breakthrough came when Luminar mind readers examined human archaeological sites. Humans had been studying ruins of extinct civilizations with unusual intensity. But they weren't just looking at art and culture. They were mapping patterns of disappearance. "The humans discovered something we missed," announced Ether Song, the Luminar's chief consciousness researcher. "Every extinct civilization in our record shows the same pattern. They reach a certain level of development, then simply stop. No wars, no disasters. They just end." Keth-9 processed this information through his vast databases. The pattern was undeniable once he looked for it. The ancient builders, the crystalline resonance empire, the gas giant dwelling stormcallers, all had reached peaks of achievement, then vanished without explanation. "But we assumed they died out naturally," protested a Kraxan historian. "Civilizations rise and fall. This is normal." "Is it?" Ether Song's voice carried otherworldly harmonics. "What if they didn't die? What if they graduated to something else?" The investigation teams found human research facilities hidden across the galaxy. secret laboratories where humans had been studying fragments of extinct technology, underground bases where teams of scientists worked on projects with names like Cosmic Interface and Transcendence Protocol. Most disturbing of all, they found evidence that humans had been in contact with something else. Communication logs showed strange signals being received from deep space. Messages in no known language, yet human linguists had been working to decode them for years. Vexka stood in the main research lab on Earth's moon, surrounded by alien scientists trying to understand what humans had discovered. Banks of computers still hummed with active programs. Holographic displays showed star maps marked with the locations of every extinct civilization. They knew this was coming, she realized out loud. They were preparing for something. Unit 47 analyzed the computer files with mechanical precision. Captain, these records indicate the humans made contact with an entity they called the Gardener. They believed this entity was responsible for the disappearance of previous civilizations. A gardener? Vexka didn't understand. What does that mean? The answer came from the most secret human facility of all. Hidden in the asteroid belt, where no alien trader would think to look. Cracks and military teams found it by accident while searching for weapons caches. Inside the facility, they discovered something that changed everything. A complete record of humanity's final days. The humans hadn't been surprised by whatever happened to them. They had been negotiating. Video logs showed human leaders in heated discussions with empty air, as if speaking to invisible beings. Audio recordings captured one side of conversations that made no sense until the investigators realized they were hearing diplomatic negotiations. The humans had been bargaining for their entire species' future. "We won't go quietly like the others," said a recording of the human president. "We've seen what happens when civilizations just disappear. Someone has to think about those left behind." Another recording showed a human scientist making an impossible demand. "If you want to take us, fine, but we want to come back as teachers. The younger species deserve guides, not abandonment." The investigation fleet gathered to hear these recordings. For the first time, they understood that humanity's disappearance hadn't been random. It had been a choice. But choice to do what? And who had they been talking to? The answer lay in humanity's final transmission, sent simultaneously to every human facility across the galaxy just moments before the disappearance. It was a simple message that explained everything and nothing. The harvest is complete, but the gardening begins now. We go not to rest, but to serve. Watch for us in the small miracles and the gentle guidance. We will not abandon you as others abandoned us. The next phase of existence is service, not escape. The galaxy's greatest minds stared at these words, trying to understand what humanity had become. Dr. Keth 9 stood before the largest holographic display ever constructed. The image showed a timeline stretching back millions of years, marking the rise and sudden end of hundreds of civilizations. Each one followed the same pattern that humans had discovered. "Observe the data," he announced to the gathered representatives from across the galaxy. "Every advanced civilization reaches what we can call a transcendence point. They achieve perfect harmony between technology and consciousness. Then, within a single generation, they vanish completely." Captain Vexka studied the timeline with growing unease. Her own people, the Zephyrians, were marked as approaching their transcendence point within the next 1,000 years. So were the Constructs, the Luminar, and even the warlike Kraxon. "But this makes no sense," protested High Admiral Tharkrex. "Why would successful civilizations simply disappear? Success should lead to expansion, not extinction." The answer came from an unexpected source. The Eternal Shepherds, the oldest known beings in the galaxy, finally agreed to speak with the investigation teams. These ancient creatures rarely communicated with younger species, considering them too primitive to understand cosmic truths. Elder Voidheart materialized before the assembly as a shimmering field of dark energy. When it spoke, its words seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Young species ask young questions," the elder said. "You think in terms of death and extinction because you do not understand existence beyond flesh and metal. The civilizations you mourn did not die. They graduated." "Graduated to what?" asked Ether Song of the Luminar. "To unity with the universe itself. When a species learns to live in true harmony, when they abandon selfishness for collective good, the cosmos calls them home. They become part of the greater consciousness that guides reality." Keth 9 processed this information through every logical framework he possessed. "You speak of some form of forced evolution, an entity that harvests advanced civilizations." "Not forced," Elder Voidheart corrected. "Invited. When a species proves itself worthy, the Universal Gardener offers them transcendence. The chance to become part of something infinitely greater than individual existence." Vexka felt cold fear creep through her body. "And if they refuse this invitation?" "None have ever refused. Until now." The assembled representatives fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been the first civilization in cosmic history to reject transcendence. Elder Voidheart continued, "The gardener tends the universe like a vast garden. When flowers bloom fully, they are picked to become part of a beautiful arrangement. This has been the way for millions of years." "But flowers that are picked cannot help new flowers grow," observed Unit 47, the young construct. "They are gone forever." "Precisely the argument your humans made," the elder replied with what might have been approval. "They looked at the galaxy and saw abandoned children, young civilizations struggling without guidance because their elders had departed for higher realms. The investigation teams began to understand humanity's final discovery. Hidden in the secret research facilities, they found detailed studies of galactic development patterns. Humans had realized that every time an advanced civilization transcended, the younger species were left to struggle alone. The cycle created a universe filled with failure. For every species that achieved transcendence, dozens of others collapsed because they lacked proper guidance. The humans called it the Abandonment Protocol, a system that rewarded individual achievement but ignored collective responsibility. In the deepest vaults of the Lunar Research Facility, they found humanity's complete response to the Universal Gardener. Video records showed human representatives in heated discussions with an invisible presence that made the air itself shimmer with power. "We understand what you offer," said Dr. Elizabeth Warren, humanity's chief negotiator. "Union with cosmic consciousness, an end to individual suffering, participation in the universe's grand design." The air shimmered, and though no voice was heard, the humans responded as if listening to compelling arguments. "Yes, we would gain infinite knowledge. Yes, we would experience pure peace. But what about the Zephyrians, who are still learning to overcome their greed? What about the Kraxen, who are just beginning to understand that strength can be used for protection instead of conquest?" Another pause, another unheard response. "No, that's not acceptable," Dr. Warren continued firmly. "Every previous civilization made the same choice. They took the easy path to personal enlightenment and left their younger siblings to struggle alone. We won't do that." The recording showed weeks of negotiations. The Universal Gardener, speaking through quantum fluctuations that human scientists barely understood, offered compromise after compromise. Humanity could take a small number of guardians and leave the rest behind. They could send messages back to guide younger species. They could delay their transcendence for a few more generations. Humanity rejected every offer. "You don't understand us," said President Maria Santos in the final recorded negotiation. "We're not just individuals seeking personal advancement. We're a species that believes in collective responsibility. If transcendence means abandoning others, then transcendence is just a beautiful form of selfishness. The universal gardener's response came through environmental effects that the hidden cameras recorded. The temperature in the room dropped to freezing. Electromagnetic pulses scrambled nearby electronics. Reality itself seemed to bend as an incomprehensible intelligence focused its attention on these strange beings who dared to challenge cosmic order. But humanity stood firm. "Here's our counteroffer," Dr. Warren said, her breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. "We'll accept transcendence, but only if we can return as active guardians. Not distant gods offering occasional wisdom, but involved teachers helping younger species find their own paths to enlightenment. We want to remain connected to physical reality. We want to be able to influence events when necessary. We want to ensure that no species ever again faces the transcendence choice alone and unprepared." The environmental effects intensified. The very air seemed to scream with the effort of an ancient consciousness trying to understand concepts it had never encountered. Finally, the effects stopped. In the sudden silence, Dr. Warren spoke humanity's final demand. Change the system. Instead of harvesting civilizations when they ripen, help them become teachers for those still growing. Make transcendence a graduation into service, not an escape from responsibility. The recordings ended there, but the investigation teams found one final piece of evidence in humanity's quantum communication logs. A message, encoded in patterns of energy that no human technology should have been able to generate. Proposal accepted, unprecedented transcendence authorized, species designation, eternal guardians, mission parameter, active guidance for developing civilizations. Warning: this path is harder than peaceful transcendence. Do you consent? Humanity's reply was recorded in every language they had ever spoken, transmitted simultaneously from every human facility in the galaxy. "We consent. We understand the burden we're accepting. We choose service over peace, responsibility over reward. The younger species deserve what we never had, guides who won't abandon them." The final entry in the human records was a single line, transmitted at the moment of their disappearance. "Transcendence commencing. Guardianship protocol activated. The teaching begins now." As the investigation fleet processed these revelations, strange reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Ancient ruins that had been dormant for millennia were showing signs of activation. Extinct civilizations' technologies were beginning to function again. It was as if the entire cosmic order was being rewired. Elder Voidheart watched the younger species struggle to understand what humanity had accomplished. "Your humans did something unprecedented," the ancient being explained. "They forced the universal gardener to evolve. For the first time in cosmic history, transcended beings will remain active in physical reality as teachers and guides." "But this changes everything," realized Keth-9. "If transcendence now includes guardianship duties, then every species that graduates will help those still learning." "Yes," Elder Voidheart confirmed. "The humans have fundamentally altered the nature of existence itself. They chose the harder path, eternal service instead of eternal peace." As the investigation fleet prepared to return to their home worlds with this earth-shattering news, they carried a new understanding. Humanity hadn't disappeared. They had evolved into something that had never existed before. Invisible teachers working to ensure that no civilization would ever again face the challenges of development alone. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after humanity's disappearance, the galaxy began experiencing what scientists could only call impossible events. Ancient technologies that had been dead for millions of years suddenly sparked to life. Extinct civilizations' abandoned structures began transmitting helpful data. Most disturbing of all, every species found themselves facing challenges that seemed designed to test their character. Dr. Keth-9 stood in the council chambers on Nexus Prime, presenting his final report to representatives from across known space. His logical mind had been stretched to its limits, trying to understand what humanity had unleashed. "The evidence is undeniable," he announced, his mechanical voice echoing in the vast hall. "Humanity's transcendence has triggered a fundamental restructuring of cosmic law. The Universal Gardener has accepted their proposal and begun implementing what can only be called a new phase of galactic evolution." Captain Vex Ka sat in the Zephyrian section, still struggling to process everything she had witnessed. Over the past months, her own people had begun experiencing strange phenomena. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries suddenly became safe, as if someone invisible was clearing away threats. Zephyrian merchants found themselves making discoveries that led to better relationships with other species. "Explain these changes in practical terms," demanded High Admiral Thark Rex. The Kraxan warrior looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for his aggressive species. Keth 9 activated a holographic display showing recent galactic events. "Observe the pattern. The Luminar consciousness discovered new forms of energy manipulation that require cooperation between multiple individuals rather than solo achievement. The Construct Collective found technological blueprints that only function when different robot types work together harmoniously. And my people," Thark Rex added reluctantly, "have been encountering situations where our greatest military victories come from protecting weaker species rather than conquering them. It's as if the universe itself is rewarding cooperation over domination." Elder Void Heart materialized in the center of the assembly, its ancient presence causing reality to shimmer around the edges. The other representatives fell silent as the oldest being in the galaxy prepared to speak. "The judgment has indeed reached the stars," the elder began. "But understand, this is not humanity's judgment alone. It is the cosmic consciousness's judgment that their proposal had merit." "What kind of judgment?" asked Ether Song of the Luminar. "The judgment that the old system was flawed. For millions of years, the Universal Gardener operated on the principle that individual enlightenment was the highest goal. Advanced civilizations were harvested like ripe fruit, removed from the garden to become part of a higher arrangement." Elder Voidheart's form pulsed with energy that felt like ancient sadness. "But fruit that is picked cannot nurture new growth. The humans pointed out what we had all failed to see. Each successful transcendence left behind a galaxy slightly emptier of wisdom. Young species struggled without proper guidance because their potential teachers had departed for peaceful enlightenment." Unit 47. The young construct who had worked closely with Captain Vex Ka during the investigation processed this information with visible difficulty. "You mean every transcended civilization chose personal advancement over helping others?" "Not chose," Elder Voidheart corrected. "They simply weren't offered any other option. The Universal Gardener had never conceived that a species might prefer service over serenity. Humanity was the first to demand a different path." The recordings of humanity's final negotiations were played once more for the assembly. This time, the representatives watched with deeper understanding of what they were witnessing. Humanity hadn't just rejected transcendence. They had put the entire cosmic order on trial. "Look at what you've created," Dr. Elizabeth Warren had said to the invisible Universal Gardener. "A universe where wisdom accumulates at the top, while ignorance pools at the bottom. Every successful species abandons the struggling ones. This isn't enlightenment. It's systematic abandonment." The environmental effects in the recording showed the Universal Gardener's struggle to process this criticism. For an intelligence that had guided cosmic evolution for millions of years, being challenged by a young species was unprecedented. "Your system breeds loneliness," President Maria Santos had added. "Successful civilizations reach transcendence and disappear, leaving no one to celebrate their achievements or learn from their mistakes. The galaxy becomes a place where everyone starts from zero because no one stays to teach." The most powerful moment in the recordings came when the human negotiators presented their alternative vision. "We propose active transcendence," Dr. Warren declared. Instead of departing for peaceful unity with cosmic consciousness, transcended beings remain engaged with physical reality as teachers and guardians, not as gods ruling from above, but as invisible helpers ensuring that every species gets the support we never had. The Universal Gardener's response had been to test humanity's resolve. The recordings showed reality itself warping around the human negotiators as an incomprehensible intelligence probed their true intentions. "Are you certain?" came the gardener's first audible words, speaking through vibrations that made the air itself sing. Active guardianship means eternal responsibility. No rest, no escape from the struggles of physical existence. Peaceful transcendence offers infinite bliss. Active transcendence offers infinite work. "We're certain," humanity replied, without hesitation. "Even if it means watching species you help eventually surpass and forget you? Especially then. Success should be measured by how well your students do, not by how much credit you receive." The judgment that followed reshaped existence itself. The Universal Gardener, for the first time in cosmic history, admitted that its system was incomplete. "I have been a gardener who picks flowers for their beauty," the cosmic consciousness acknowledged. "You propose that I become a gardener who cultivates wisdom to bloom throughout the garden itself. This requires adjustment to fundamental principles." Elder Voidheart addressed the assembly with what might have been respect in its ancient voice. The humans convinced the Universal Gardener to evolve its own consciousness. They argued that true cosmic wisdom meant ensuring the growth of wisdom throughout the universe, not just collecting it at the top. The practical implications were staggering. Reports came in from across the galaxy of impossible assistance appearing exactly when needed. Young civilizations discovered crucial technologies at precisely the right moments. Dangerous space phenomena mysteriously shifted away from inhabited systems. Trade negotiations that should have failed somehow found solutions that benefited everyone involved. But the most significant change was happening to the transcendence process itself. Ancient ruins across the galaxy were reactivating, not as dead monuments to vanished peoples, but as active teaching centers. The extinct civilizations that had transcended millions of years ago were returning as humanity's fellow guardians. The humans didn't just change their own fate, Keth9 explained to the assembly. They changed the fate of every species that had ever transcended. The Universal Gardener is recalling them to active service. Captain Vex Ka felt a strange mixture of awe and sadness. So the humans sacrificed eternal peace to become eternal teachers? More than that, Elder Voidheart replied. They convinced every transcended species in cosmic history to make the same sacrifice. The galaxy now has millions of invisible guardians instead of 0. The assembly absorbed this in stunned silence. The implications were overwhelming. Every species now developing would have access to wisdom from countless transcended civilizations. No one would struggle alone anymore. But perhaps the most remarkable part of humanity's judgment was its humility. Intercepted quantum communications between human consciousness nodes showed them working together to coordinate their guardianship activities. "Remember," came one transmission, "we're not here to solve their problems for them. We're here to ensure they have the tools and opportunities to solve problems themselves." Another message read, "The Kraxen are learning that strength means protection, not conquest. Be patient. Let them discover this themselves." A third communication showed humanity's dedication. "The Zephyrian trade dispute on Outer Rim will escalate to war unless someone creates an opening for negotiation. Adjust asteroid mining yields to create mutual dependency. Make cooperation more profitable than conflict." The humans had become what they had always claimed to be, a species that measured its success by lifting others up, not by surpassing them. As the assembly debated how to respond to this new reality, Elder Voidheart offered a final observation. The judgment that has reached the stars is this: no one advances alone, and no one is left behind. The humans have established a new cosmic principle, that true transcendence means choosing service over self, responsibility over reward. The galaxy would spend generations learning to live under this new reality, but for the first time in cosmic history, every struggling civilization would have invisible teachers ensuring they had every chance to succeed. Humanity's judgment had become the universe's new law. 2 years after humanity vanished, Captain Vex Ka found herself returning to the Sol system once again. This time, she wasn't alone. Her cargo bay carried representatives from 12 different species, all wanting to see where the humans had made their impossible choice. The system looked the same as when she first discovered it empty. Earth's orbital stations hung silent in space. The blue planet below showed no signs of human life. But something felt different now. The silence no longer seemed empty. It felt expectant, as if the entire system was holding its breath. "There," pointed Unit 47, who had requested to join this pilgrimage. The young construct had become something of an expert on human behavior. "The asteroid field where the humans had their largest mining operation." Vexka piloted her ship toward the coordinates. What they found there made everyone gasp in amazement. Floating in perfect formation among the old mining equipment was a new asteroid. It hadn't been there before. Vexka had memorized every rock in this system during her investigation. This one was different. Its surface gleamed with veins of rare metals, and it was positioned exactly where ships could mine it safely. But most remarkable of all were the words carved into its surface in letters large enough to read from space. "For our friends among the stars. The journey continues. Humanity." Each species representative found the message written in their own language and writing system. The Kraxan delegate saw it in their angular war script. The Luminar representative perceived it as patterns of light. The construct units read it in binary code that somehow conveyed warmth and affection. "How is this possible?" whispered Dr. Yith Ka, the expedition's lead scientist. "Asteroids don't just appear, and certainly not with messages carved in perfect script for each observer." Unit 47 scanned the asteroid with every sensor available. "The mineral composition is impossible. This contains exactly the rare elements that our combined civilizations need most for current technological projects. It's as if someone designed it specifically to help us." Over the following months, similar discoveries appeared throughout the galaxy. A Zephyrian exploration ship found a derelict vessel in deep space, perfectly preserved, filled with advanced trade route maps that would revolutionize galactic commerce. The maps showed paths through space that avoided all known dangers while connecting civilizations that had never had direct contact before. The Kraxan Empire discovered ancient ruins on their outermost colony world. But these weren't just archaeological sites. They were active training facilities. Young Kraxan warriors who entered the ruins emerged with profound understanding of how to use their strength to protect rather than conquer. Most remarkably, the Luminar consciousness found new forms of energy resonance that allowed them to share thoughts and emotions across species barriers. For the first time, they could truly communicate with civilizations that thought in completely different ways. But the changes went deeper than convenient discoveries. Across the galaxy, conflicts that should have exploded into wars somehow found peaceful resolutions instead. Trade disputes ended in compromise. Territory conflicts resolved through sharing agreements. Ancient enemies discovered common ground they had never noticed before. Captain Vex Ka experienced this firsthand when a cargo delivery went wrong near the spiral frontier. Pirates attacked her ship, demanding her valuable cargo. In the old days, this would have meant combat or losing everything. Instead, something strange happened. The pirate leader, a Vorthan named Scarclaw, suddenly stopped his attack mid-fight. "Wait," he growled, his scaled face showing confusion. "I just had the strangest thought. What if instead of stealing your cargo, we provided escort services for traders in this region? Pirates know these space routes better than anyone. We could make more money protecting ships than robbing them." The idea was so practical and profitable that both sides agreed immediately. Within months, the former pirates had become the most effective security force on the frontier. Trade in the region tripled because merchants finally felt safe. Similar stories echoed across civilized space. The Construct Collective found themselves working with organic species on projects that combined mechanical precision with biological creativity. The results exceeded anything either could achieve alone. Dr. Keth 9, now serving as the collective's ambassador to other species, made a remarkable discovery while studying these collaborative projects. The mathematical probability of so many beneficial coincidences is essentially zero, he reported to the Galactic Council. Someone, or several someones, are actively manipulating events to create opportunities for cooperation and mutual benefit. The humans, confirmed Elder Voidheart during one of its rare appearances, and now others. The transcended civilizations that agreed to return to active service. They work together to ensure that every species has the chances they never had. The most profound proof of humanity's influence came when the first post-human species reached its transcendence point. The crystalline beings called the Harmony reached perfect technological and social development just 18 months after humanity's disappearance. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness what would happen. Would the Harmony accept traditional peaceful transcendence, or would they follow humanity's example? The answer came when the Universal Gardener made its offer to the Harmony, but this time, the cosmic consciousness presented two choices instead of one. "You have achieved perfect balance," the Gardener's voice resonated through space itself. "You may choose peaceful unity with cosmic consciousness, or you may choose active service as guardians for younger civilizations." The Harmony's decision surprised no one who had been paying attention. "We choose service," their collective voice harmonized across all frequencies. "The humans showed us that true harmony means ensuring everyone has a chance to find their own perfect balance." As the Harmony transcended into active guardianship, something unprecedented happened. The moment of their transformation was visible across the entire galaxy as a wave of crystalline light that somehow conveyed pure joy. But more importantly, young species throughout the galaxy reported sudden breakthroughs in understanding harmony and cooperation. The newly transcended Harmony had immediately begun their teaching work. Captain Vex Ka watched this cosmic event from the observation deck of a Galactic Council station. Standing beside her were Unit 47, Dr. Keth 9, and representatives from dozens of other species. "It's spreading," observed Unit 47. "Humanity's choice is becoming the new standard. Each species that transcends chooses service over self." "More than that," Dr. Keth 9 added. "The actively transcended civilizations are working together." Humanity didn't just change their own fate. They created a network of cosmic teachers. The proof of this cooperation came in the form of gifts that appeared throughout civilized space. Technical blueprints that solved energy shortages, medical information that cured diseases, agricultural techniques that fed hungry worlds. Each gift was perfectly suited to the species that found it, and each came with the same message: from your friends in service to all life. But perhaps the most touching evidence of humanity's continued presence came in the small things. Children across the galaxy reported dreams of kind voices teaching them to be brave when they were scared. Scientists found inspiration striking at exactly the right moments to solve crucial problems. Artists discovered new forms of beauty that somehow brought different species together in appreciation. The galaxy had become a place where no one struggled alone. Elder Voidheart, in its final appearance before the Galactic Council, delivered what might have been the ancient being's last formal statement before its own transcendence. "The humans forced us all to evolve," the Elder said, its energy form pulsing with something that felt like gratitude. "They showed us that wisdom unused is wisdom wasted. That advancement means nothing if it doesn't advance everyone. The judgment that has reached the stars is simple. True success is measured not by how high you climb, but by how many others you help climb with you. The humans made this the new cosmic law, and every species benefits from their choice." As the years passed, the galaxy transformed into something unprecedented in cosmic history. Young civilizations developed faster and more peacefully than ever before because they had invisible teachers, ensuring they never faced impossible challenges alone. Trade flourished as species found common ground they had never noticed. Wars became almost unheard of as conflicts found resolution through intervention so subtle that all sides thought they had found the solutions themselves. And in the deep quantum layers of reality, human consciousness nodes worked alongside their fellow guardians from thousands of transcended civilizations, all united in the same purpose, ensuring that no one in the galaxy would ever again face the universe alone. Captain Vex Ka, now an old trader near retirement, made one final trip to the Sol system. She brought with her a message from the Zephyrian government, a formal thank you to humanity for everything they had given up to help others. As she broadcast the message to the empty system, she wasn't surprised to receive a response. It came as quantum fluctuations that her ship's computer translated into familiar human words. "Thank you, old friend, but we didn't give anything up. We found something better than peace. We found purpose. Take care of each other out there. We'll always be watching over you." The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest lesson, that the highest form of advancement was choosing to serve rather than to escape, to teach rather than to transcend, and to ensure that no one ever had to face the universe's challenges alone. And in the endless depths of space, 12 billion human souls continued their eternal work, invisible gardeners tending a galaxy where everyone could bloom.